The hull of the drop pod shuddered as it sliced through Grithin Prime's turbulent atmosphere. Captain Ryan Bear, McAllister gripped the restraints across his chest, his face lit by the flickering red of the pod's interior lights. Around him, his squad sat in tense silence, their eyes fixed ahead. 10 seconds to ground, came the monotone voice of the onboard AI. McAllister glanced to his right, catching the nervous gaze of Private Harris. He gave the young soldier a tight nod. Eyes open, Harris. Just like we trained. Why, yes, sir, Harris stammered, clutching his rifle as if it were a lifeline. The pod slammed into the jungle floor with a deafening thud, sending a shockwave rippling through the ground. The restraints released with a hiss, and McAllister was on his feet in an instant, his boots crunching against the alien soil. Move out, he barked, his voice cutting through the cacophony of jungle sounds, alien chirps, distant growls, and the rustling of foliage. The team spilled out, weapons raised, scanning their surroundings. Grithin Prime was a hostile beauty. The jungle glowed faintly with bioluminescent flora, casting eerie shadows over the towering, twisted trees. Vines hung like serpents, and the air was thick with a strange, metallic scent. Stealth protocols, McAllister ordered, motioning for the team to form up. They activated their cloaking devices, rendering them nearly invisible against the dense foliage. Sergeant Elena Lee, his second-in-command, moved to his side. Satellite recon was right. Empire patrols are everywhere, she whispered, nodding toward a faint blue glow in the distance, an Empire scout drone. They won't see us coming, McAllister said, his tone grim but resolute. The team advanced silently through the jungle, their movements precise and deliberate. They had a mission: infiltrate the Empire's forward operating base, disrupt communications, and gather intel on the rumored bioweapon. Failure wasn't an option. Contact 2 o'clock, muttered Corporal Davis, his voice barely audible over the comms. McAllister followed his gaze and spotted a pair of Empire soldiers patrolling the perimeter. The aliens were tall, insected beings with chitinous armor that shimmered under the dim light. Their plasma rifles hummed softly, ready to fire at a moment's notice. Hold, McAllister commanded, raising a clenched fist. The team froze, blending seamlessly into the jungle. McAllister signaled to Sergeant Lee, who nodded and raised her suppressed rifle. One quiet shot, and the first alien crumpled to the ground. The second barely had time to react before another shot silenced it. Clear, Lee confirmed, her voice steady. The team dragged the bodies into the underbrush, stripping them of anything useful. McAllister's sharp eyes lingered on the alien weapons, powerful but overly reliant on energy reserves. It was a stark reminder of the Empire's overconfidence. They think their tech makes them untouchable, Davis muttered, securing a plasma grenade to his vest. Good, McAllister replied. Underestimation is our weapon. Reaching the perimeter of the Empire's FOB, the Rangers paused to assess. The base was a sprawling complex of metallic structures that pulsed with blue energy. Towers equipped with rotating plasma cannons loomed over the compound, and drones zipped through the air in erratic patterns. We've got 15 minutes until the next drone rotation, Lee reported, studying a holographic map projected from her wrist device. That's all we need, McAllister said, his mind already working through the plan. Lee, Davis, take out the comms tower. Harris, you're with me, intel room. Silent and quick. No heroics. Harris swallowed hard but nodded. Yes, sir. The team split, moving with practiced precision. McAllister and Harris slipped through a gap in the fence, their cloaking devices masking their heat signatures. Inside, the base hummed with activity, alien engineers repairing vehicles, soldiers marching in formation. McAllister's pulse quickened as they approached the intel room, a heavily secured building in the heart of the compound. He motioned for Harris to cover him and set to work on the door's locking mechanism. Hurry, sir, Harris whispered, his voice tinged with panic as an alien patrol passed dangerously close. The door hissed open, and they slipped inside. The room was dimly lit, filled with holographic displays and alien data consoles. McAllister's eyes scanned the room, locking onto a central console that glowed with alien script. "Cover the door," he ordered, plugging a portable translator into the console. Lines of alien text morphed into readable English. Project Purge. Deployment timeline, 72 hours. McAllister's jaw tightened. The bioweapon wasn't just a rumor, it was real, and it was imminent. He copied the data onto his device and turned to Harris. "We've got what we need. Let's move." The sound of an alarm shattered the silence. Red lights flared across the base as alien voices barked commands. "They've found the bodies," McAllister growled, motioning for Harris to follow. They sprinted through the corridors, plasma bolts scorching the air around them. Harris fired wildly, his shots keeping the pursuing aliens at bay. "Keep moving!" McAllister shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. Outside, the rest of the team was already retreating under heavy fire. Lee's voice crackled over the comms. "Charges are set, but we've got company." McAllister and Harris emerged just as a plasma bolt grazed Harris's shoulder, sending him crashing to the ground with a pained cry. "Get up, soldier!" McAllister yelled, dragging Harris to his feet. The team regrouped at the extraction point, their faces grim but determined. Behind them, the Empire's comms tower erupted in flames as the charges detonated, plunging the base into chaos. Back in the safety of the jungle, the Rangers regrouped in a concealed cave. Harris winced as Lee patched up his wound, her hands steady despite the tension in the air. McAllister reviewed the stolen data, his expression darkening. "The Empire isn't just building a weapon. They're deploying it, 72 hours. We're out of time." "What's the plan, sir?" Davis asked, his voice laced with urgency. McAllister looked up, his eyes burning with resolve. "We hit the facility before they can launch. No matter the cost." The team nodded, their exhaustion replaced by determination. McAllister's voice was steady as he addressed them. "We've been underestimated before. Let's remind the Empire who they're dealing with." The chapter closed with the Rangers preparing for the fight ahead, their resolve unshaken despite the odds stacked against them. The jungle seemed to echo their unspoken promise: humanity would not go quietly. The jungle's suffocating humidity clung to Captain Ryan McAllister's skin as he crouched behind a tangle of roots. His sharp eyes scanned the narrow trail ahead, where an Empire patrol moved methodically, their boots crushing the alien undergrowth. He signaled to the squad with a quick hand gesture. Sergeant Elena Lee took aim, her suppressed rifle trained on the lead soldier. With a soft pop, the first alien crumbled silently. 2 more shots followed, and the patrol was neutralized before they had time to react. "Clear," Lee whispered, her voice steady despite the tension hanging in the air. McAllister motioned for the team to move. They had hours, maybe less, before the Empire realized their forward operating base had gone dark. The stolen intel was clear: the bioweapon facility lay deep in the jungle, and time was running out. Private Harris trudged behind him, his wounded shoulder tightly bandaged but still slowing him down. "Sir," he said, his voice low. "How much further?" McAllister glanced at his wrist-mounted map. "Another 2 clicks tops. Stay sharp." The jungle thickened as they pressed on, the trees twisting into unnatural shapes that seemed to lean toward them. Bioluminescent plants cast faint, flickering light, their colors shifting like oil on water. The air buzzed with an undercurrent of alien energy, and the faint metallic scent grew stronger. "Eyes up," Corporal Davis muttered, his rifle sweeping the shadows. "This place gives me the creeps." "Focus," McAllister said, his tone firm but calm. "We've handled worse." The faint sound of muffled cries made the team freeze. McAllister raised a fist, and they fanned out, moving cautiously toward the noise. What they found made Harris gasp. A wiry alien, its skin a pale, sickly green, was shackled to a tree, its body battered and bruised. The alien's eyes, large and glassy, darted toward the humans with a mixture of fear and desperation. "It's a Gryphon," Lee whispered. "The locals thought they were all wiped out." McAllister approached cautiously, kneeling before the alien. We're not here to hurt you, he said, his voice softer now. What's your name? The alien hesitated before croaking. Tarek. Tarek, we're here to stop the Empire, McAllister said, keeping his tone steady. Help us, and we'll help you. Tarek's gaze flickered to the shackles, then back to McAllister. You fight Empire? Impossible. Not for us, McAllister replied, cutting the restraints with a knife. Tarek slumped forward, rubbing his wrists. They took my people, Tarek muttered, his voice shaking with anger. Made us slaves. Used us to build their weapons. McAllister exchanged a glance with Lee. Do you know this jungle? Can you get us to their facility? Tarek hesitated, clearly torn. If I do, you must destroy it. For all of us. McAllister nodded. That's the plan. With Tarek leading the way, the team moved faster, navigating hidden paths and avoiding Empire patrols. The Grithan's knowledge of the terrain proved invaluable, and his growing trust in the Rangers was evident in the way he spoke with more confidence. They think they are gods, Tarek said bitterly. But they bleed. You've seen it. Plenty of times, Davis muttered, scanning the trees. And we'll see it again soon. As they neared the facility, the jungle gave way to a clearing. The massive complex loomed ahead, a stark contrast to the organic chaos of the jungle. Metallic walls shimmered under artificial lights, and towers bristling with plasma cannons stood like sentinels. Lee crouched beside McAllister, her binoculars trained on the base. Defenses are tight. Automated turrets, patrols every 10 minutes. Drones circling overhead. No way we're walking in unnoticed. We don't need to, McAllister said, his mind working quickly. We create a diversion, split their focus. Lee, Davis, take out those turrets. Harris, you're with me. Tarek, stay close. We'll need you to navigate the interior. Tarek nodded, though his expression was grim. I hope your bravery matches your recklessness, human. The plan went into motion like clockwork. Lee and Davis planted charges on the turrets, their movements precise and silent. Moments later, a series of controlled explosions rocked the base, drawing the attention of every patrol. Now, McAllister said, leading Harris and Tarek through a hidden maintenance tunnel Tarek had revealed. Inside the facility, the air was colder, sterile. The hum of machinery was omnipresent, and the walls were lined with glowing conduits that pulsed like veins. Tarek's pace quickened, his knowledge of the layout proving invaluable. The main lab is ahead, he whispered, his voice tight. But it's heavily guarded. McAllister peered around the corner, counting 4 Empire soldiers stationed at the lab's entrance. He motioned for Harris to set up his rifle. 1 shot each, McAllister said quietly. We can't afford a firefight. Harris nodded, his hands steady despite the sweat dripping from his brow. The first 2 shots dropped the guards instantly, but the third missed, grazing an alien's shoulder. The wounded soldier roared in alarm, raising its plasma rifle. Move! McAllister barked, firing a burst that silenced the alien before it could fire. The team rushed into the lab, securing the doors behind them. What they saw inside made Tarek stagger back in horror. Rows of Grythons lay strapped to tables, their bodies twitching as alien machines pumped glowing green fluid into their veins. Monitors displayed erratic readings, and the air was thick with the stench of chemicals. They're testing it on my people, Tarek said, his voice trembling with rage. McAllister's jaw clenched. We'll end this. Harris, grab all the data you can. Tarek, find us the controls for the bioweapon. Harris worked furiously, downloading schematics and deployment plans while Tarek guided McAllister to a console displaying the weapon's status. It's ready for launch, Tarek said, his voice hollow. Earth will be the first target. Not on my watch, McAllister muttered, setting charges on the control systems. The sound of pounding on the lab doors snapped their focus. The Empire was closing in. Captain, we've got company! Harris shouted. Hold them off, McAllister ordered, finishing the last of the charges. The doors burst open, and plasma bolts filled the air. Harris fired back, his aim steady despite the chaos. McAllister and Tarek worked quickly, ensuring every critical system was rigged to explode. "Charges are set!" McAllister yelled. "Fall back!" They fought their way out, plasma bolts scorching the walls as they ran. Lee and Davis regrouped with them at the extraction point, their faces grim but determined. "Facility's going up in flames," McAllister said, panting. "But we've got a bigger problem. The weapon's almost ready to deploy." Lee's face hardened. "Then we take it out. No matter what." McAllister nodded. The team had no time to dwell on their losses or the horrors they'd seen. The mission wasn't over, and failure wasn't an option. The chapter ended with the Rangers preparing for their final assault, their resolve unshaken despite the mounting odds. The Empire had underestimated them once. It wouldn't live to make the same mistake twice. The roar of approaching enemy ships shook the jungle canopy as Captain McAllister and his team raced toward the Empire's bioweapon deployment silo. Time was slipping through their fingers like grains of sand. "Satellite confirms," Lee said, her voice tight over comms. "The launch sequence is in its final phase. We're looking at 15 minutes tops. Then we make every second count," McAllister replied. He checked his gear and glanced at Tarek, who was visibly trembling but determined. "Stay close. You've gotten us this far. Just a little further." Tarek nodded, his alien eyes narrowing with resolve. "I won't let them win." The deployment silo rose above the jungle, a colossal structure of dark metal that seemed to absorb the light around it. A glowing green mist poured from vents near the base, the telltale sign of the weapon being primed. Dozens of Empire soldiers patrolled the area, their movements methodical and efficient. "Multiple tangos, heavy defenses," Davis muttered, surveying the scene through his scope. "That's a lot of firepower for a small team." "We're not here for a fair fight," McAllister said, his tone resolute. "Lee, Davis, create chaos. Draw their attention. Harris, you're on overwatch. Tarek and I will handle the silo." Lee's lips curved into a determined smile. "You got it, Captain." Moments later, explosions rocked the perimeter as Lee and Davis set off strategically placed charges. The jungle lit up with flashes of fire and smoke, and Empire troops scrambled to respond. "Go!" McAllister barked, leading Tarek toward the silo under the cover of the chaos. The interior of the silo was a stark contrast to the organic wildness outside. Gleaming black walls pulsed with energy, and the hum of machinery was almost deafening. A central platform housed the bioweapon, a massive, glowing canister suspended in a containment field. Alien engineers worked frantically at consoles, their focus entirely on the launch sequence. "Isolating the launch controls won't be enough," Tarek whispered, his voice filled with dread. "You must destroy the core entirely." McAllister's jaw tightened. "Then we destroy it." A sharp hiss behind them sent McAllister spinning around, his rifle raised. An Empire officer stepped forward, flanked by heavily armed guards. The officer's chitinous armor gleamed under the pale green light, and its multifaceted eyes reflected both curiosity and disdain. "Humans," it sneered, its voice a guttural hiss. "You are persistent pests, I'll give you that. But this ends here." McAllister's grip on his rifle tightened. "Not while I'm breathing." The officer laughed, a hollow, rasping sound. "Then I'll make sure you're not." The room erupted in chaos. Plasma bolts rained down as McAllister dived behind a console, dragging Tarek with him. "Stay down!" McAllister ordered, firing over the edge of the console. His shot struck one of the guards, sending it sprawling. Tarek's hands trembled as he pulled a small device from his belt. "I can disable the containment field, but you must hold them off." "Do it!" McAllister barked, reloading his rifle. The guards pressed forward, their weapons blazing. McAllister fired in controlled bursts, taking out one after another, but more kept coming. Sweat dripped down his face, and his muscles burned with the effort of keeping them at bay. Outside, Lee and Davis fought their own desperate battle. Empire reinforcements poured into the clearing, their sheer numbers overwhelming. Captain, we're running out of explosives and ammo, Lee reported over comms. Her voice was steady, but McAllister could hear the strain. Hold your ground as long as you can, McAllister replied. We're almost done here. Harris's voice crackled through the channel. I've got a clear shot on their drop ships. Permission to engage? Take it, McAllister said without hesitation. A deafening roar followed as Harris's sniper rifle tore through the Empire's landing craft, sending flaming wreckage crashing into the jungle. Back in the silo, Tarek shouted, Containment field is down! The core is exposed! McAllister spared a glance and saw the glowing canister now vulnerable, its pulsating energy thrumming louder with each passing second. The Empire officer snarled, its voice filled with rage. Do you think this will stop us? Humanity's resistance is futile. McAllister's response was a grenade. He hurled it toward the officer, the explosion throwing the alien backward and scattering its remaining guards. Tarek, how much time do we have? McAllister shouted, firing at the fleeing engineers. The weapon will detonate if the core is damaged, Tarek said, his voice frantic. You must get out before. No time! McAllister interrupted. He pulled the last of his explosives from his vest and planted them around the core. Lee, status? We're pinned down, Captain, Lee replied, her voice tight. Extraction isn't going to happen unless we get air support. McAllister's mind raced. There was no way out of this. The mission came first. Harris, call in the backup coordinates I sent earlier, McAllister ordered. Sir? Harris hesitated. Just do it! McAllister snapped, his tone leaving no room for argument. Tarek grabbed McAllister's arm, his expression one of despair. You can't stay! The blast will kill you! McAllister met the alien's gaze, his voice calm but firm. This is what we do, Tarek. If it saves Earth, it's worth it. He shoved Tarek toward the exit. Go. Get out of here. That's an order. The charges were armed. McAllister took a deep breath, his mind oddly calm as he stared at the glowing core. The Empire officer, battered but still alive, dragged itself toward him, hatred burning in its multifaceted eyes. You think you've won? It hissed. We are eternal. Your kind will never. McAllister's rifle silenced the alien mid-sentence. Yeah, I've heard that one before, he muttered. Outside, Lee and Davis regrouped with Harris and Tarek as the ground trembled beneath their feet. The jungle lit up with a blinding flash as the silo erupted, the explosion consuming the bioweapon and everything around it. Harris turned toward the inferno, his face pale. Did he? Lee placed a hand on his shoulder, her expression somber. He knew what he was doing. Tarek lowered his head, his voice a quiet murmur. He saved us all. Hours later, aboard an extraction craft, the surviving Rangers sat in heavy silence. The cost of their victory weighed on them, but the knowledge that Earth was safe brought a sense of grim satisfaction. He wants us to keep fighting, Lee said, breaking the silence. For him. For everyone. Davis nodded. Damn right. The jungle receded in the distance, but its echoes remained, a testament to the sacrifice of one man and the unyielding spirit of humanity. As the craft descended into the atmosphere, the bioweapon silo's smoldering ruins faded from view. But its destruction sent a clear message across the galaxy. Humanity would not bow,